The Seahawks looking to avoid a third straight loss and hoping that it's not a second straight loss to a team that didn't have any wins coming to Seattle. Hey, how are you, folks? Jason Horowitz alongside NFL.com's Pat Kirwan, breaking down the Seahawks and the Rams. And, you know, Pat, you look at this team, Seattle. They lost 28-17 last week to New Orleans. The Saints' offense was bad coming in, and they put up points in the first half. What's wrong with Seattle's defense here?
I don't know. Seattle looked completely out of sync on every side of the ball. The play calling down the stretch was questionable. When they didn't go for the field goal and they were down by 2 scores, they should have done that. It's just a lot of things that don't look very good. Now, when you go back and look at the Seattle defense, your first question, I still like the linebackers. I still think those guys find the football. I'd like to see the inside players do a little bit better. I didn't think that they should allow Reggie Bush last week to run like that. I don't think they have that kind of challenge this week, though.
Well, they've got Julian Peterson, and, of course, you know, he is playing very well, but he can't do it all by himself. But this week they look at Mark Bulger, who's coming back after a couple weeks of not playing for the Rams. Is this the right move for Scott Linehan? A guy with a couple of broken ribs that, you know, he's had a couple weeks to rest, but may not help.
Well, you know, you got to get your starters back on the field as soon as you can. This season's not over, and there's respectability at stake here. There are jobs at stake. There are a lot of things at stake. But here comes Bulger and his ribs. You mentioned Julian Peterson and his 6 sacks. This team will get after the passer. There'll be no mercy by Seattle as it relates to Bulger. They will come looking for him. We know he's a guy that doesn't escape very well anyway. He was hit a lot before he got hurt. He's going to get hit a lot in this game, too.
And, of course, Steven Jackson, again, not playing in this one, so they got to rely on Brian Leonard.
Well, you know, Brian Leonard
hurt, too.
Yeah, I know. And he had one nice game to start his career off. Everyone's excited. Last week he had about 15 yards.
Right. At St. Louis, you know, it's funny because it's tough to see a team be beaten so badly that they take the knee when they're the one down just to end the game.
Yes.
You don't see that very happen. It did happen against the Ravens. Meanwhile, for Seattle, you've got an offense that's struggling to run the football. Here comes St. Louis. They're struggling to do anything defensively. Is this a big explosion for Seattle?
Now, you know, I look at Sean Alexander, and that's where the explosion would have to come from. And I don't see a guy that's going to be explosive. He'll get back to and get an ugly 100, but he's not going to give us these Sean Alexander performances of the past. It looks like he's tiptoeing through the line. And I think Mike Holmgren has addressed that privately with Sean on a number of occasions. I don't see anything coming out of Sean Alexander right now that suggests to me a 175-yard big day.
And he wasn't the guy on the field when they were trying to make the comeback against New Orleans either. They had somebody else in there instead. All right, folks, let's throw all these numbers into a computer, come up with a result. 10,000 mathematical tests, 10,000 results, no human element. Here's what the computer had to say, and as you'd expect against an 0-6 team, the Seahawks, the favorite, and 75% of the tests run, they came out victorious. Computer gives the Rams 17 points. Let's not forget, 3 out of the last 4 weeks, they've scored in single digits. Do the Rams score 17, and do the Seahawks win big?
I think the Seattle Seahawks win the game, and I do think that the Rams can generate 10 to 17 points. It is a division opponent. Seattle's had their number. A few years ago, St. Louis had Seattle's number, but in the last 4, it's been Seattle every time. You know, Matt Hasselbeck is not playing very well right now, and he doesn't have his big play guy in Deion Branch. And when you look at the receivers, you don't see the big play guy on the Seattle team, so they're not going to generate a lot of points. I think 17-10, 24-17, at the most 24-17.
And he doesn't have DJ Hackett either. The 2 starting receivers to begin the season for Seattle are not on the field for Matt Hasselbeck. The 2 kick it off at 4:15 p.m. Eastern. For more on this game or any other, be sure to stay with CBSSports.com or check everything else out on the CBS Audience Network. For Pat Kirwan, I'm Jason Horowitz.
Take care.